Don't say that. Know why you're doing certain things and know why you're not doing certain things. If processes need to be changed, update them, make them better. But your reason of why you do something should not be because this is the way we've always done it. Try to break out of that, do something better, update your process, and I think you're going to do well.
Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another jam-packed action episode of Behind the Screens, conversations with background pros, the people who make the screening industry happen. And today we have a happening guest. We have a guy who clearly knows the difference between a pea cup and a coffee cup, a good thing to know, a national expert on the effects of poppy seed bagels, and my personal drug supplier for as long as I can remember. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Todd Shoulberg. Todd, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you, Les. What a great and wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll get more into poppy seed bagels and all this, but I do recall, I think during my entire career, and I'm not retired, but I think you've been my drug guy as my connection as far as I can remember. I think you're the first one to ever say to me, the first one is free, but I digress. So what are you doing now? What are you doing these days?
Yeah, so now I oversee ClearStar's Drug and Occupational Health Division, which encompasses the drug screening, as you just mentioned, drug supplying, clinical testing, and kind of all aspects of occupational health, physicals, vaccinations. We also do in-house medical review officer, which means when you go for a drug test, there's a step in between the laboratory and the employer getting the result, where if something shows up, you can actually speak to a doctor in order to see if there's a legitimate reason for that drug in your system. So your employer only knows that if you're positive, it's because of the illegal use. So we have in-house doctors, and I kind of oversee that entire office for ClearStar now.
And it's a national organization, right? You guys do everything you just described. You're overseeing an operation that does this nationally, all over the country,
nationally,
right?
and globally. We have plenty of
globally.
clients that are outside the United States, and there's plenty of drug testing that happens, outside. And I'll share some stories later of some crazy outside the U.S. stories when it comes to drug testing.
All right, so that must keep you busy because between all the drug sites and all the different things you do,
and supplying you, yes, it's a very busy job.
And that begs the question. So it keeps you busy. What do you like about it? What do you find most interesting or challenging about that role?
It's different every day. Talking to clients, hearing their problems, trying to solve what they're trying to solve for. It's not straightforward. And I'll share one of the stories now. Many years ago, and again, I've been doing this for, over 25 years now. But many years ago, I got a phone call and a person said, hey, we need to drug test 600 people. Can you help us? Of course, it's not that rare of an ask. Then came the hammer. They said, we need it done in 10 days, which is still okay, but they're all located in the country of Jordan. Now we're talking 10,000 miles away in the Middle East. So I had to work on how do we drug test 600 people in 10 days in the country of Jordan. And went to work, found collectors, flew collectors out to Jordan, had to work with laboratories to send kits out. The kits got stuck in customs. We actually had to work with the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, at the time, as well as the King of Jordan. It was crazy. But we got the 600 people tested. Client was happy. And those are the kind of things that when you can pull off are just great stories and make the job really satisfying.
Well, that's amazing. So you or your team actually talked to the King of Jordan to get drug testing done?
Yeah, not me personally, but it went through the King of Jordan's office. The laboratory sent kits, but the kits, the bill of lading had a zero value on it because the laboratories don't typically charge for the kits.
Right.
So once these 12 huge boxes got stopped through customs in Jordan, they said it's impossible. These 12 boxes have zero value. So it got flagged and got held up. We had to get some involvement to get it passed through.
Well, now I know if I ever have a problem where I need the King of Jordan and the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Todd, you're the guy who can do it. That's
John Maynard's not
incredible.
there anymore, so
All right.
we'll stick to Jordan.
So basically what you're telling me is that although there's processes and procedures, there's nothing cookie cutter. Every day there's some story that comes up.
Right. I mean, vast majority of it is cookie cutter and it's the same thing. However, it's those one-offs that come in all the time, from our client base that really makes the job interesting and fun.
Well, okay. So what was your path? You're at ClearStar now. How long have you been with ClearStar?
Yeah, about 18 years.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking of a good answer for this. And, I first started on the shrimping boats and oyster shucking, and that's really not that far from the truth. I graduated with a degree in communications and hospitality management, and then went into the restaurant industry and managed a seafood restaurant for a number of years. And I've shucked more oysters than I care to mention. Been on plenty of docks and shrimp boats, but it came down to you really can't raise a family and also work in a restaurant. So I decided to kind of look elsewhere and applied for a job doing beverage law consulting, where you would do responsible vendors for bartenders and servers that would sell alcohol. They had to go through certain training programs. Right. So I applied for that to get out of the restaurant day-to-day field, but did not get that job. But the owner of that company was best friends with the owner of a drug testing company that had just received a grant to spend money to promote drug-free workplace programs. So that person needed to hire someone right away, just took the stack of resumes from his friend, found me in it, and I went to start working at a company called Florida Drug Shrink and spent 8 years in that company. I think that's where I first met you, Les.
Right, yeah.
And then that company sold to a larger company, stayed on for 6 months during the transition, and then went to ClearStar. And at that time, ClearStar was a technology company that sold software.
Right.
And that's all we did. So for a few years, I sold the software and then just really wasn't happy. And went to the founder at the time, Bob Vail, who you also know, and said, look, I'm really not happy selling the software. Either I need to leave or can I start a drug testing division here? And he pretty much said, go for it. Stayed out of my way, let me start the drug testing division, and here I am 17 and a half years later.
That's incredible. I've known you for so long, but I didn't know the backstory. That's great. So you were, I guess the term is an entrepreneur, someone who works in a company but is entrepreneurial, and you started up this large national drug testing, occupational health machine used by lots of people.
Yeah, exactly. I like that term, entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. So breaking that down a little bit, you graduated from school. I'm going to just take a wild guess. I'm just going to play, just see if I can read your mind. I'm thinking maybe you went to University of Central Florida?
Could
that be right?
Your psychic powers are amazing.
Are they amazing? And believe me, the football helmet behind you had nothing to do with that guess. Right. So it's from the University of Central Florida is where you went to the restaurant industry and shucking than one person could possibly stand. Were you actually on the shrimp boats or
no? I stayed
at the dock.
Yeah, stayed on the docks. Yeah. Okay. A little too dangerous going out on the boats for me.
All right. So Forrest Gump would come in with the catch, and then you would help get it to the restaurants.
Right. And then I'd make the shrimp creole and the shrimp scampi and the fried shrimp and the broiled shrimp and the steamed shrimp, and I can go on and on. But yes, I'm not even going to try to do the accent, but yes.
If you can actually make all that, I'm getting on a plane, I'm coming out to Florida and have you start cooking. That's great. And so now you're at the University of Florida. You're actually in Melbourne, Florida still, right?
Yes.
Oh, great. And then you're right. We go back all the way to the original Steve Brownstein conferences in Clearwater and Tampa before the formation of PBSA. We were all part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a real long time. Like I said, those date back 20 plus years. Going back to those.
So why the football helmets? Does UCF have a football team or something? Or
well, we do have a football team. No, just a huge fan, alumni supporter, season ticket holder. I make it back to all the games. The campus is still only about an hour and 15 minutes from here. It's one of the football fans we're always looking forward to next season.
Right.
It's been a while.
Listen, I commiserate with you. I went to UCLA, and I think we won a national championship in 1958, which, I was too young to remember. And it's been next season ever since. All right. So it's always just that close and never quite there. That's great.
It won't matter when someone watches this podcast. Next season is our season.
Next season's our season. So before the podcast, we were reminiscing about the fact that football fans are familiar with the UCF because of the unbeaten season in 2017. And that was the year where you should have been number one, but Alabama got it.
Yeah, they would not let us in the conference playoffs. That was the year with Shaquem Griffin that had the one arm, and Mackenzie Milton, who had the incredible season as quarterback. And yeah, they would not let us in. But
And that was a long time ago, but you're still not bitter about that, I take it.
you know, Alabama, yeah, Alabama still refuses to play us.
Right. So you've been at this for a while and done a lot of interesting stuff. I like to ask people, let me ask you, what's a lesson you learned early in your career that has stuck with you since, that you still find relevant or that still applies?
It goes along the lines of just, being nice to everybody. But someone once said to me, be nice to those that you step over on the ladder of success, because they're the same people you're going to see on the way down. And that's just kind of stuck with me. I mean, in this industry, you see a lot of people changing positions, changing jobs, going up and going down. And it's just really be caring and trying to help each other out.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know, you do live that. You do practice what you talk about, so that's great. You've been in the industry for a while, and we're going to play a quick game. We call it Changes and Challenges, no more than 30 seconds each. Just quick off the top of your head, since the time that you've been involved in the industry, I mean, going back to Steve's conferences back in Clearwater to today, what's been the biggest changes you've seen?
For me, I'm looking at stuff, obviously, with the drug testing slant. So really, it's got to be the marijuana laws and just the changing marijuana laws in each of the different states, even on the federal level, as you're hearing more and more about it being decriminalized, and just the changes and kind of what that means for workplace testing, what that means for people who have policies in place that they need to update. I think that's probably been the biggest change over the last number of years.
And it sounds like that would be the biggest challenge too, then, going forward, because it's still not settled.
Right, but on the challenge side, I'd actually add testing for impairment. I think that's something that companies can't do because the technology is not there yet. If someone does marijuana on a Friday night, on Monday, they're going to test positive on a drug test, but they're not under the influence of marijuana from Friday night.
Right.
So there's no test yet really that really tests for impairment, which I think is a challenge that I think technology has to catch up to in order to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, I was trying, I don't want to age myself, but I was trying jury trials back in the early 80s. For a DUI with alcohol involved, there was just a ton of literature where at a certain amount of alcohol, you can document a certain impairment, and they had all sorts of empirical testing. But we never wanted to, if someone came up positive for some drug, those were harder cases because your criminalist couldn't say at this level, there's a ton of literature that says this impairment goes with that level of drugs, divided attention or however you're measuring it. That hasn't changed, apparently.
No, there are some states that actually passed DUI laws for marijuana and other drugs, but there's no way to test it. In other words, they passed a law without figuring out how they could actually facilitate it or enact it, because there's no acceptable test or level that shows that for impairment.
So, under a new category, applicants say the darndest thing. What's something that stands out that some applicant did or said that even today you still go back and say, man, I can't believe that person said that?
Having the medical review office, the doctor who is the one that speaks to these applicants every time, and this is the time when the applicant is trying their best to get out of their failed drug test. So I think that's where you hear the most stories of these applicants are trying anything they can. It's funny how when someone tests positive for cocaine or marijuana, it's never them that did the drug. It's always their roommate. It's always their spouse that did the drug. It's never them. Not a week goes by where someone's not blaming some type of intimate relations with their spouse as the reason of how that drug must have gotten into their system. They think it's unique, but yeah, we hear that quite often. With marijuana smoke, it's never them. It's always the person next to them or the concert they were at, how the drug's got into a system. But a lot of these people know that, they're going to lose, unfortunately, they're going to lose their job or get kicked out of school. So they're going to Google wherever they can Google to try to figure out it's this GNC diet supplement that I'm taking that caused the cocaine to be in my system. Or everybody all of a sudden went to Mexico or China and got some special tea that had it in their system. I mean, it's crazy, the different type of excuses people get. And they're very convincing because the employers will call us back and the employers are convinced. I mean, the applicant, until we talk to the employer and say, okay, we hear this excuse all the time. I'm sure they were convincing. It's not true. It's not legitimate. The person is still positive. A lot of times the employer just doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, and the employer can make their own decision unless they're federally or state regulated or there's some mandatory safety decision. But
right,
yeah. Oh, that's bizarre. I mean, I remember going way back, and these are old stories, but you go on the web. I don't know if you can still do it and buy something called urine luck. You can buy fake urine, and if it's not an observed test, you could substitute and somehow get it to be the same temperature, but they generally can't, or Well, how's all that work?
Actually, one of the presentations that I did at PBSA, the industry conference, was all centered around cheating on your drug test. And I spent an hour going through all the different products that are out there, going from, the urine let product that you're talking about is synthetic urine that you can purchase. Because a lot of times what drug users found is that they can't borrow their friend's urine because typically their friend is positive as well. They need for more drugs than they are. So that never works out. So you have to go and buy synthetic urine from somewhere else. But there's those products, different types of shampoos that they sell, mouthwash that they sell that is supposed to work. The reality of it is most of the stuff doesn't work, but what it does is it flags the integrity testing part of a drug test. So technically it did mask the marijuana or cocaine, but your test came back invalid because of the substances that you put into your system. So you're technically still positive, but their disclaimer is still good. You didn't test positive for marijuana, but you still failed the drug test.
So I have this mental image of the drug testing companies versus the people that are selling products, and they're always fighting it out, trying to get one step ahead of each other. Is that still kind of true?
It is. I mean, when you get into these synthetic drugs, whether it's synthetic marijuana or some of these synthetic opiates, as soon as the manufacturers come up with it and start selling it, the laboratories will then find it. Then they'll come up with, a way to test for it. And then the drug chemists just alter it, a molecule or two, so it's different. Then they resell it. And then the laboratories are a step behind now. They now have to catch up and now test for that. It's still a cat and mouse game.
I remember some clients saying, let's not test for marijuana because we couldn't hire anybody. And we hire creative types. So let's not do that test. Right.
Yeah. And even more so now. I mean, when you have so many states that marijuana is recreationally legal,
right.
We see that more and more. I mean, that's probably a trend also where more and more companies are removing marijuana from their testing panel and still testing for the other drugs, but easing up on marijuana a little bit.
So you mentioned PBSA and that you were a panelist. What's been the role of PBSA in your career?
PBSA, and again, on the drug testing side, there's a few conferences as well and associations like PBSA,
right.
But kind of all of them combined, it's amazing for networking, for the conferences, for really just realizing that whatever problem or issue you have that you're trying to solve, you're not alone. Other people are having the exact same issue or problem, and being able to talk it out, to hear from other people, and just to meet other people. Because even though we're all competitors, it doesn't seem that way. Right. When you get together at these conferences, everyone's willing to help out. I remember there was another drug testing company in Houston a number of years ago, and they got hit by hurricanes. And they actually reached out to us, and we actually were their secret backup MRO for a couple of weeks, helping them process their drug testing. And they had Fortune 100 companies. And we just, even though we're competitors, we did all the work for them and got it done just to help them out, hoping that when the hurricanes hit us, which being in Florida, they will, that they'll be there to help us out.
Oh, that's a great story. So, I mean, that's a real example of professionalism and professional competitors. So that's great. What are some of the panels? I know you've been a frequent speaker because you're an expert in this area. What are some of the panels and some of the topics that you've talked about?
So we talked about cheating on your drug test. Then there's, drug testing 101 and kind of drug testing 102. These intro to drug testing ones are really good because a lot of times the main focus of the PBSA conferences are background screening. Right. So yes, they've been starting more and more to have a drug screening track, but a lot of people that attend really need the basics of drug testing. So being able to kind of explain, hey, here are the most important things for you to know when it comes to drug screening, and do it and explain it at a very easy level. It's great, and that's a great audience to do it for.
I know you brought a lot of value to people, and I can say, just make a personal observation that when I did have a screening company, I'm retired now, that we valued our partnership with you and that you always took care of us. You've been the man behind the screen when it came to that part of our offering, so we really appreciate that.
You're most welcome. Like you said when you opened, I've been your drug guy from day one.
That's right, absolutely. And in a good way.
In a good way.
And before we leave sort of the professional side of things, looking back at your career from shucking oysters to directing international Occ health and drug testing and so forth, what's been something that stands out in your mind that you smile about, or something you kind of say, oh, that was a good one. I'm proud of that one.
I think going back to the comment you made about the entrepreneur, I think really starting this division from scratch.
Yeah.
Having management allow me to do it and kind of stay out of my way, and taking the lessons I learned from Florida drug screening of, if I was to do this again and start over, I would do this from day one. And really doing those different items, and now looking at what has been built over the last 10, 12 years. I think that for me, that's probably the proudest part.
That's great. And you've been at ClearStar, how many years you say?
All my 18th year.
18th year at ClearStar. Well, congratulations to you and ClearStar. That's great. So life beyond background screening. Todd, what do you do when you're not dealing with the King of Jordan and trying to figure out the cat and mouse game of cheating and all the other stuff you described to us? What's your hobbies and what do you do outside of work? What's fun for you or what's interesting?
So aside from my UCF fandom, which we're in the basketball season, I would say my newest addiction are escape rooms.
Is what now?
Escape rooms. So
Okay.
I don't know if you're apparently not.
No,
So
I'm
this is
not.
where-
This is new to me.
This is where you pay somebody, this is going to sound crazy, to lock you in a room, and then you have 60 minutes to get out of the room.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't hear you. Escape rooms. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Gosh. Okay.
I got it. So you're an escapist. Got it. All
That's
right.
That's my newest expensive addiction hobby. I think I'm up to about 225 rooms right now.
Holy moly. So I have to ask you about this because I am claustrophobic. And even being in a car freaks me out. Let me get this straight. You actually go to someone and you say, here's money. I'm going to give you money in exchange for the privilege of being locked in a room that I can't get out of, where I assume there's no bathrooms. And all right. And maybe they'll let you out after an hour, or maybe you'll figure out a way out earlier. Is that kind of basically what's happening here?
That's basically it. They do put clues in the room to help you get out. But yes, that's basically it.
See, I'm a member of the NCAA, no clue at all. So I'm clueless. So they give you clues.
Yeah.
And what do you do with these clues? I mean, there must be secret panels or buttons or something. How does this work?
Yeah, absolutely. There's typically locks, there's secret rooms, there's codes, there's stuff hidden on the walls. It really is a lot of fun. Yes, I do it personally, but even in the workplace. I mean, I've taken our office, a number of times as team building events.
Right.
They're very popular to go ahead to have people kind of work together. Out in California, some of the best rooms in the country are out in California.
All right.
But there are thousands of rooms nationwide.
1,000 rooms. So you're about 22% through now?
Thousands. So I'm nowhere. Yeah.
All right. So you've been about 225 in there. So there's like about 780 left or whatever, right?
Yeah. There's a lot left. I mean, think of it as
And new ones popping up.
Yeah. But they are a lot of fun. They're challenging. That's my new hobby in my spare time.
Okay, I had no idea. So you go into a locked room and try and get out, right?
It doesn't sound that exciting when you explain it, but
Yeah, that's right.
trust
Of course,
me,
one
trust
solution
me.
is not going there in the first place. To me, it's like weightlifting. I mean, why would I want to take a perfectly happy piece of metal that's sitting on the ground, pick it up and put it right back where it was? But to me, it's kind of like in that area. But okay, I guess. But some people like that, so who knows?
Right.
All right. So these escape rooms, are they mainly near Florida, or do you travel wide and far, or what do you do?
I have traveled before to some of the rooms, but I mean, typically almost every major city has them now. Whoever's listening to this, if you're not familiar, Google escape room in whatever city you're in, and you're going to see a list of them. I mean, they are literally almost everywhere now.
So if somebody wanted to visit ClearStar's Melbourne offices, they could give you a call and you will lock them in a room for an hour.
I can recommend that. I've already done all the rooms near me, so I can't do them again. But yeah, I can recommend somewhere nearby for them to go.
So I know ClearStar's headquartered in Atlanta. So when you go to headquarters, then you've probably all done all the ones in Atlanta as well.
A good portion of them. Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, you see, that's what's so fun about this broadcast. You talk to someone who appears perfectly sane, and then they tell you, "Oh, I pay people to lock me in the rooms to see if I could somehow get out or not." So okay, all right. No, that is a big deal. You see them all over the place, but I guess if to me an escape room is kind of like an MRI. It's like, oh, I couldn't do it. Who else do you enjoy this with? I should say.
My wife has been a willing cohort with me in this. And I think my record is we did 9 in one day.
Wow.
And I don't think she talked to me for 3 weeks afterwards.
All right.
But yeah, so mostly it's with my wife. My son enjoys them as well.
And how old's your son?
He's 22. He's
Okay.
I'll put in play. He's graduating in a couple months.
Oh, fantastic.
Can you guess where he went to college?
Okay, let me guess. I'm going to put my
Carnell.
prodigious mentalist abilities to mind. I would guess, I don't know, UCF.
Correct.
How did
Correct.
I possibly know that?
He's graduating with a degree in aerospace engineering.
Wow.
If anyone's listening to this, he's also looking for a job. So please put something in the comments or reach out to me if you have a open aerospace engineering position. He graduates in May.
So that makes you a proud dad to have someone who can do something that you have no idea what it is, but it's hefty.
Yeah, I stopped helping him with math homework when I think third grade.
That's incredible.
He perfect score in his math SATs, and I don't even know the answers. When he shows me these problems, I don't even know if the answer is a number or a letter or a word or a graph. It's the math's crazy.
But on the other hand, he still inherited the crazy gene to go into locked room. So,
Yeah, that he did.
what are you going to do? All right. Okay. I had no idea. And this time of the show, we usually play fun facts. I think we got one already that you're an escape artist. And and that you like to get locked into rooms, that you actually pay for it. But tell us something about yourself, share something about yourself that people may not know or guess.
It's funny, tying into the escape artist piece of it. When I was a youngster, my dream job was to be a magician.
Oh, no.
And obsessed for years with it. I went to magic camp as a teenager and magic school, and all through junior high school and high school. I mean, I was doing shows for money. People were paying me, and I was going to birthday parties and doing magic shows, and did that for a number of years. Went the escape artist route a little bit. I used to escape from a straitjacket. So yeah, I don't do it so much now as I used to, but I still keep up in the magic scene and still like to, I'd like to get back to it. Maybe if I stop getting locked into rooms, I can pick up the magic bug again.
Well, Todd, I had no idea that you were a magic aficionado. That's fantastic. So let me guess, you used to do needle through a balloon for the kids?
Yeah. And then for the adults, the needle and the thread.
Needle, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
On the
You
mouth,
swallow
yeah.
that. Yep. That's standard. And pull a scarf out magically. And all right.
Absolutely.
And
But
it
no,
was it cards and coins as well?
Cards and coins, and yeah, I love close up stuff with cards, coins, all that stuff. Yeah,
So you can force and slip and false shuffle and double shuffle and Hindu shuffle and shuffle off the buffalo and do all that stuff.
yeah, little out of practice.
Practice. Well,
But yes.
Have you ever been to the Magic Castle in Hollywood, California?
I have been there a couple times.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, if we're ever in LA at the same time, I've been a member of the Magic Castle since, God, the 70s. And I don't do much magic anymore either, but I actually had to do an audition with these I don't think Di Vernon actually saw me audition, but magicians of that ilk, and I was there, doing my stupid little card tricks and got in. So if you're ever there or need a guest pass, let me know. We'll get you to the Magic Castle. That's fantastic.
Definitely.
Well, there's two things I didn't know about you. The fact that you and I share the distinction of being amateur magicians, although you didn't sound that amateur, and you're an escape artist. So that's fantastic. All right.
I just have to lose a little bit of weight, and I can fit into my straitjacket that I still keep in my closet, and even I can break that out at the next PDSA conference.
Oh, well, next conference I go there, bring a deck of cards. Let's trade some secrets.
I carry one with me everywhere I go, so.
All right. Well, this has been great. Boy, this has been quite the, use a magical term, quite the revelation. So, all right. And a lot of misdirection here. I had no idea where we were going with all of this. That's fantastic. All right. So listen, Todd, you've been in the industry for a while. You've been doing some great stuff. You have had quite the career. If someone was just thinking of entering the industry or starting out, or they maybe been in it for a couple years and wondering what would be a good path to take, you're a great example of being an entrepreneur and creating something out of nothing that grew into something world class. What's your advice to people?
Knowledge is power, and just read. I mean, you got to know their laws and know the regulations. That's going to help you in everything. On the background check side, you have the FCRA. On the drug testing side, it's a little more out there with different states having different rules, but there are still some federal regulations. If you're trying to get into it, knowing the rules is huge, because a lot of people don't know the rules. They just get right into it, but they don't spend the time really reading about it. And one thing I learned is when you look at federal regulations, and not to get too much in the weeds, but usually there's a preamble, and the preamble explains kind of the history or why they are making this rule or why they did not make the rule a certain way. And sometimes reading that text is the most important part of it. It really helps you understand the context and understand why this rule was there. Just, again, read and just learn the regulations as much as possible.
Well, that's great advice. Basically, to make yourself valuable by becoming valuable, and they become valuable through knowledge and experience. And the more you know. Oh, it's great advice. So listen, it's been a great half hour, and thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. And before we sign off, let me turn it back over to you and give you the last word.
Okay, I appreciate it, Les. I've enjoyed it. Final thoughts. If you've done an escape room near you, please, if you recommend it, put in comments, let me know what the escape room is, so when I visit your town, I can add it to my list. But in all seriousness, the phrase that I always hate to hear when you're in operations and you're working companies is, that's the way we've always done it. So my final thought would be, don't say that. Know why you're doing certain things and know why you're not doing certain things. If processes need to be changed, update them, make them better. But your reason of why you do something should not be because this is the way we've always done it. Try to break out of that, do something better, update your process, and I think you're going to do well.
So let's see, you heard it here, folks, from Todd Shoulberg. Don't assume anything. It reminds me of one of my favorite management stories. There's a management system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And one of the stories they tell is that someone, when they made a meatloaf, they always cut off the last 2 inches. And their son or daughter said, why do you always cut off the last 2 inches? Well, because that's what we do. Well, it turns out that years ago, when their grandparents used to make that meatloaf, they had to cut off the last 2 inches because they only had a pan that was 8 inches. And so sometimes there's these things you do that are just part and parcel of what you do just because they're historical, without thinking.
Now, I just told that same exact story to people in my office last week, but it was about a Jewish grandmother and a brisket. But the same story. So
don't assume.
yes.
Well, this is Todd. This has been great. It's been a lot of fun. I didn't know that drug testing could be so much fun, or that a drug tester could be this much fun. I really appreciate you spending some time with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate that you would listen to another episode of Behind the Screens with our background pro, Todd Shoulberg, with ClearStar. And Todd, thanks again.
Okay. Your shipment's in the mail.
All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.